All right, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic, because today what we're going to be talking about is a few different things based around the market, about YMAX, and about a new potential strategy which you could use to leverage your money to get some pretty interesting returns. I want to talk about a strategy about using margin. I have margin rates for Questrade up because Questrade is the current platform that I'm using for both of these accounts, my cash account and then my margin account. Of course, this is just a theory. This is not financial advice by any means, but I want to show you something interesting. You could use the power of debt in order to leverage your returns with margin and by using a 3 times bull, because generally the market, SPY, the S&P 500 generally trends upwards over a long period of time. And you know, why not try to use any capital that you have and potentially leverage it to the upside if you are in fact convinced and you have strong reasons to believe the market will trend up in the future. So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about everything. I want to talk about the dividends received from YMAX and some of the other YMAX ETFs. I want to talk about some margin rates, and I also want to talk about how you could potentially take $1,000, turn it into roughly $10,000 in terms of margin, and how you could use this in order to really grow your wealth quickly and potentially have more money to invest in higher paying dividend stocks or whatever dividend stocks you guys aspire to own. So if that does sound good, we're up to 5,375 subscribers. Please do subscribe if you're interested in some high yielding dividend videos. So today we'll talk a little bit about YMAX just to kind of kick it off, because YMAX is the main holder within my portfolio. As you can see here, I hold 303 shares at an average price of $18.77, we'll say respectively. Currently, we're down over about $1 on the current share price. And in my position, that translates to a negative return of $286, as you can see here. My strategy was to use SPXS, which is a 3 times bear, in order to offset any kind of losses from YMAX. But currently, as the market has been trending up, SPXS has been trending down because it's a 3 times bear, and so I'm actually currently down on both positions, which is interesting. Sometimes it balances out. YMAX isn't exactly in tune with the S&P 500 or SPY as you call it, but it is very close. And we're seeing now that we are now down in both positions, so I want to be transparent about that. One thing as well that I have received is YMAX's dividend. So 303 shares. YMAX paid out a dividend this month of 59 cents, so significantly down from the 65 cents that we received in the previous month, roughly about $200 Canadian for that last YMAX dividend, which feels pretty good. It's pretty cool, and you can see that it came in US dollars, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want because that's the currency that we're trading YMAX in. The account is soon to be over $10,000, which will be very exciting. And I also have a margin account where I've deposited about $600 or so, and I'm using roughly about $250 of buying power in this margin account. And one kind of strategy that I did want to talk a little bit about here is using the Drexen Daily S&P 500 3 times bull in order to leverage our returns as well with margin. And on Questrade, for the margin, basically Questrade kind of taxes on margin at the end of every month. But what I do want to say here is their rates are very high right now in terms of everything, just even outside of stocks themselves. Housing rates, construction slow, and residential, just because interest rates are much higher. And you can see here, if you have a all Canadian non-registered account like I do, I'm looking at paying about 8.5% plus. That's 12.75% in terms of my margin rate, which is very high. Normally, you wouldn't really want to do this. Let's say you're buying a long-term stock or you're buying the S&P 500. The market generally trends upwards of about 7 to 10% every year. Using this rate of margin at 12.75%, you would likely be losing money 2.75% or more every year because the market doesn't necessarily trend up that fast. Of course, that's just an average. It's not saying every year, but what can we do to kind of offset this margin rate and potentially earn more money on our income? We have the 3 times bull on the S&P 500. Whatever SPY does, the Drexen S&P 500 3 times bull will do 3 times that amount, and that percentage wise. Let's say we have $1,000 and we invest it, and With Questrade, you can use a margin. You can kind of have buying power that's 3.33 times your initial investment. So we invest $1,000 and we can use up to 3.33 times our $1,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter. Our $1,000 can grant us $3,330, which is not bad. And what we could do is we could invest that in the S&P 500. We could pay a 12.75% margin rate, or what we could do is we could once again leverage it again and invest it into a 3 times bull like SPXL if you are bullish on the market long term and you do think it's going to go up in the long term or potentially in the short term too, because SPXL can be very volatile. So in terms of percentage wise, it's definitely pretty cool because we're able to take our margin and all of our income and really kind of compound it at a better rate using margin, and then also using a leveraged ETF to give us even more of a return. So with this video, I do want to say, of course, it's not necessarily a recommended strategy just because rates are very high, and then also you have the prime rate, interest rates are very high, and you have to be very careful when using the strategy because of course you're going into debt, you're using other people's money in order to grow your own wealth. And the last thing that I do want to show you, which I found was very interesting because a lot of people are concerned about kind of the price chart history of the YMAX funds over the long period of time, was YMAX actually released kind of their performance history for all their ETFs if reinvested the dividends over time. And you could see even funds like OARC at the top here has only a negative 5% return over kind of like the 1.5 year date that it's been released because of reinvested dividends. And you can see here, this is the past returns for these ETFs, these YMAX ETFs over the past 1.5 years or so. So you could see a lot of them are sitting at 170%, which is the outlier. That's NVDY. You have AMZ, which is 37%. You also have ones that didn't do as well. Dizzo, Exxon with 4%. But a lot of them have done surprisingly well. Some of the biggest losers are AI Option Income Strategy, which is AIYY. But you could see here that majority are upwards, and it's very interesting to see how reinvesting the dividends can really make a huge difference in terms of compounding your returns, but then as well kind of allowing your returns to be a net positive for a total return, which is very cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it kind of opened your eyes up to a potential strategy using margin to potentially buy a 3-time leverage fund, which is definitely risky. You have to know what you're doing, but could potentially allow you to build your wealth a lot faster. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're up to 5,375 subscribers. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.